across the top 6. But they've widened the grid spots today because 3 drivers...
It's lights out and away we go. They weren't held very long at the start. Russell gets away very cleanly though, and he's already got Lewis Hamilton behind him, with Sergio Perez tying down the inside with Lando Norris.
Mercedes, and they could take the speed through the first few corners.
Daniel Ricciardo makes contact there with Kevin Magnussen, and there's a second contact, and they're both out of the race. Ricciardo...
I don't think it certainly wasn't a sudden move from Magnussen. Magnussen went inside to cover the line, but Ricciardo just couldn't slow his car down enough, is how it looked to me. But of course, you know, McLaren in this massive fight with Alpine had been behind, so they absolutely didn't give any time up. And Lando Norris having to take to the grass then to very carefully and well driven in terms of not connecting with Sergio Perez then. And now he's got the Ferraris on his tail, and of course they remain on his tail in the safety car train. So it all looked pretty good, didn't it? They made it through turns 1.
Progress, Tsunoda right at the back of the field, as you can see.
Of course, it's very early in the race, but you only lose about 11 seconds if you pit under the safety car, because the pack's obviously going much more slowly. But we're not really far enough into the race. Oh, well, we're not far enough into the race.
I don't know whether that's a sheepish look from Daniel, and that's really gutting for Kevin Magnussen as well. It's left to Mick Schumacher now to try and score some points for Haas. Mick actually currently P10, so up a couple of places. So a great opening lap from Mick Schumacher in the other Haas. Good as well for Sebastian Vettel, up to P8. And make no mistake about it, that Aston Martin...
Suggested that it was an issue, but maybe not.
Yeah. Okay, well, anyway, there's nothing you can do, is there, unless they can twiddle some buttons on the steering wheel and come up with an amazing straight away and rock up at the back of the crocodile on and let your tyres go cold as well. You really want to catch the back of the pack just as they're restarting.
Yeah.
So
15th, and I suppose from your perspective, at least they avoided each other on the first lap, so it was a good start, yes?
Yeah, so far so good, but looks like they're one behind the other again for this restart. But I'm confident they'll continue to avoid each other.
Hamilton and the Red Bull of Verstappen make contact here in Interlagos. Verstappen's got big damage to his wing, and has Lewis Hamilton got a puncture?
Hamilton's moving all over the place, wasn't he? Really struggling to keep the car straight. So that was the kind of thing I was expecting.
Thought he might have got a puncture, but no, he's carrying on.
He left me no space. Our front wing damage.
Yeah, we are boxing, Max. Box.
Well, we'll have a control. That's the FIA race control, and our race control here today, Karun Chandok.
Yeah, thanks, Crofty. Will Joseph came on the radio to Lando Norris saying, everything looks good from my side.
Now, this is what happened. Verstappen's ahead going into turn 1. Hamilton now ahead going into there. Who's at fault?
Let's just see it again. I think Max...
Nothing wrong with his Mercedes on this occasion. Past Mick Schumacher on the previous lap, now past Pierre Gasly on this lap, and he's up into 6th. Don't forget, he started 10th, didn't he? Last year for the Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton went on to win the race. Long way to go, mitigating Norris and Leclerc.
So Verstappen was in front as he turned left.
From what we can see, doesn't look massive on TV pictures. Pace does look good though.
It's your front axle against his or her rear axle, and then the layout of the corner. Do you keep is your car under control? Were you given racing room? Were you taking liberty?
Running in 3rd place, Lando Norris 4th, and Sebastian Vettel currently in 5th place with Lewis Hamilton right behind him. Verstappen and Leclerc currently 17th and 18th after having to make their pit stops after Verstappen made contact with Hamilton.
But that gap.
Here comes Lewis Hamilton on Sebastian Vettel once again. And maybe Vettel being helped picking up a slipstream behind Lando Norris, who I think starting to struggle. Cut on that one. That's Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll.
But that's how you let somebody, that's how you get through side by side through turn 2.
I think Max definitely ahead into turn 1, dropping down the hill.
And on the pit wall saying to George Russell, can you give us a little bit more space up front?
You've been given a 5-second time penalty for the collision at turn 1.
And where did they expect me to go? He just closed the door on me, but doesn't matter.
17th, and shall we have another look, Martin?
Right, so we're in front. Now we're alongside, but we're quite clearly alongside. And we tried to take the curb on board that car.
To 11th place, and Stroll slips further away from the points. Lap 16 here. This Sao Paulo Grand Prix, full of incidents so far. If you're
4, wasn't it? And then we didn't get the second safety car.
There goes Sebastian Vettel down the inside on Lando Norris. Sebastian Vettel has seen that move pulled off a few times in this race, and he's done it himself a few times in the past, and he's now up into the
lovely place to do that. He's nowhere near any back markers. Sainz has pitted, and he's able to really drive that car smoothly.
Made his F1 debut here, didn't he, for Force India in 2017. Look at smoking.
Did itself out, but Sainz slots back in then.
Oh, and he's trying to go around the outside here of Alex Albon, trying to find that free air by pulling off the overtake, and he does. Carlos Sainz up into 11th place.
You had to put your rip-offs, your tear-offs in your own car with some Velcro.
Set the fastest lap in 3 of the last 4 Grand Prix is George Russell, sending some pace out in front now, over 2 seconds clear of Sergio Perez, and wanting to go long.
Yeah, lovely, clear information there from George, and he's able to sort of drive any which way he likes at the moment. Ted.
The word from Mercedes that Hamilton's car is still okay, nothing wrong now. They actually had a look at all the data. AlphaTauri ready for the other car, but Crofty, wasn't it just the only soft tyre that's...
Compound tyre, this Ferrari is reborn, he is breathing new life into it, and the Scarlet Machine is red hot out on the track. 8 now for Carlos Sainz, making up more and more. Yeah, 36 points the difference going into this race, and currently Mercedes making big inroads into that, if not, let's just do the maths, yeah, if not at the moment, overtaking, into dropping down the hill where he tried to get past Lewis Hamilton. They made contact, Hamilton went off the track, Verstappen had massive damage to his front wing, and that's pretty much been the end of his competitiveness in terms of the... Just ahead of him, the crew did their best to get Perez in and out ahead of Bottas. Didn't quite work out for them.
No, that's hurt him a lot, hasn't it? He'll have the pace, but if he's going to think of undercutting George Russell, so Mercedes will be watching this corner by...
As you can see, about to cross the start-finish line, as into the pits comes Norris and Bottas for their first change of tyres. You've got the inside line going back out onto the track again. George Russell safely into this race ahead of Sergio Perez, but now he's Russell now on the mediums, and we'll see the comparison. Mercedes will be fascinated by the data between Russell and Hamilton in terms of sector times, and as we now turn our attention to the final podium place as it stands currently, and Sebastian Vettel hasn't pitted yet, and will do so now. Sergio Perez was probably going to get him anyway. Seems like a good time for the Aston Martin to pit. It's been a very strong battle. Comes Joe Guan Yu, and he's got Esteban Ocon right on his tail as through Ferradura, the right-hand horseshoe, they go. Undercut seems quite powerful here.
Very much so.
Valtteri Bottas enters the first corner, and he's ahead with Sebastian Vettel. Close attendance behind Pierre Gasly. We'll be looking for a very nice exit out of the Curva de Sol, and a bit of DRS maybe down that Red Raposta. But as you can see, no idea where Bill's mother's place is in Sao Paulo, Martin, but looking out of our commentary box straight ahead, where the rain came from a couple of days ago, that's starting to get very murky.
He's got a very good chance of getting to the end on these tyres then, doesn't it?
Yeah. Are they just going for the one-stopper with Lewis Hamilton, whilst others might have to stop for a second time? Once again, not the quickest pit stop we'll see this afternoon, or have seen. Hamilton top 3 as it stands. Here's Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez teammate, of course, and there is the Williams of Alex Albon, and that was a lot more clean for Max. Here comes Esteban Ocon. Pierre Gasly struggling out there for pace, and is easy prey for the likes of Esteban Ocon, who gets past his teammate Pierre Gasly, or his teammate for next season, I should say, Pierre Gasly.
40 laps, isn't it? When did he come in? Lewis Hamilton came in on lap 29. So yeah, got to do 42 laps on those set of tyres. So.
But at this sort of pace, he might actually be able to stop a second time.
Yeah.
If that carries on.
Maybe that's the strategy. Black and round and grippy. I'll stick with them. Good. So
sticky as a stick. Maybe George is managing the pace a little bit as well. Here's Lance Stroll next to try.
Fastest lap point in his pocket at the moment, but we know that can be changed even on the very last lap of the Grand Prix.
And we're riding on board then with Max Verstappen in P16. If you're thinking to yourself, how did Max Verstappen get that far down the
one with Mick Schumacher and the Sauber team are linked. And the suspicion is at the moment that the Alfa Romeo Sauber mechanics didn't pull in their wheel guns when Mick, who is in the
and into 12. Where's Lando Norris? At the moment, Lando Norris is in the final points position, but he'd like to double that tally and get past Pierre Gasly. Norris, of course, having a 5-second time penalty for the incident with Charles Leclerc that punted Leclerc off.
No, insult to injury, then he had to wait for Pierre Gasly as well, so lost another couple of seconds.
Right, that's why they stopped. You can see the mechanic there slamming that wheel gun in frustration. Carlos Sainz is also coming in. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen, after seeing a few cars come and go in this race, is seeing another one going. That's Lance Stroll. He's just overtaken there, so he moves his way up in a twin. Go live to the track with the Alpine of Fernando Alonso, who's just making moves everywhere we look at the moment. This time he's picked off Yuki Tsunoda, and up now into 13th with Joe Guan Yu pitting.
Anybody so far, and claims that one World Championship point for now, as he starts having to try to come back at Lewis Hamilton and the yo-yo.
Yet we are side by side at speed exit if he's pitting now.
Okay, which means, Carlos, you might need to set another fastest lap of the race.
Which Perez didn't pit. So, yeah, they're 22.3 seconds.
The track temperature has dropped 11 degrees since the start of this Grand Prix. And remember yesterday, the cooler temperatures favoured them. Well, Hamilton's made huge inroads into Sergio Perez, 5-6 tenths per lap. George Russell, meanwhile, has...
Saying it's not that Lewis is building up for a one-stop here. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's unlikely because a one-stop's very difficult to achieve here. This is all about Mercedes trying to get a 1-2 in this race. Just what Karun has said.
Let us know if you prefer medium.
Yeah, copy no soft.
That is no soft, isn't it?
But Mercedes, would they allow it to be Russell v Hamilton, or would they say, gents, you've had a fine afternoon, let's keep a 1-2, do nothing silly?
They could say what they like to them, couldn't they? And it's, well,
I think our race is with Checo now. Yeah, we are looking to come back on Checo at the end of the race.
Let's head to Sky Race Control. Karun Chandok, come in.
The follow-on from that conversation is they think Lewis is going to pit again, so they...
Weekend, but not on this occasion. Sergio Perez holds off Lewis Hamilton for that second place, and we move back on board now with Lewis Hamilton. No move down the inside. Perez jinks over to the right, doesn't he, to cover Hamilton off. Now,
driver, there's no Brazilians on the grid. They've decided they're cheering for Hamilton.
Honorary citizen, and getting plenty of salutes from the crowd on that one as Charles Leclerc is told to come in and pit once more. It's well worth the 2 hours stuck in traffic to get here and the 3 hours stuck in traffic to get out. Sort that one out, it could be our favourite race of the season, but when we get onto the track, boy...
Perez not getting silly about it or smoking the brakes into the apex, so Red Bull now will be very much hoping there might be a safety car, because that would sort their race out for them a little bit, because at the moment, run wide, you pick up a load of debris and marbles on your tyres, you lose a bit of tyre temperature, you could be the next 2 laps sorting it out. Like this.
Yeah. Right, Sergio Perez, he's just pitted. We're on board now with Charles Leclerc. Pierre Gasly is the car ahead of him. Leclerc has DRS. Yeah, so Carlos Sainz goes through and up into second place. Hamilton now comes out onto the racetrack, and there is Sergio Perez in the distance. They couldn't leave it a lap longer, because if Hamilton had pitted, then Perez would have been ahead of him. Is that why Fernando Alonso had the deck chair that time? Lando Norris has come to a standstill in his McLaren. Through goes the leader, George Russell.
Could that be the safety car we talked about?
Less time from their race. He is coming in, Martin.
See, there's still 17 to go, and Mr. Kravitz awaits him.
Turns, but the crucial thing for Alonso is if this turns into a full safety car, then he could end.
Look, there's 3 marshals down there at the moment, and they're really struggling to move it. Good time as Lando Norris walks away to bring in Otmar Safnauer on the Alpine pit wall. Fernando Alonso came in,
let's see what we can do. We have to score as many points as we can here.
And McLaren out, your scoring points. We'll speak to you a little bit later on. Thanks ever so much indeed.
Thank you.
There's a lot to talk about in the next laps sold. Lewis Hamilton's were 9 laps old when they put those tyres on, because of course they didn't have any new set of softs to put on. So Russell's got a slight advantage in that respect.
Yeah, and also he's the one who pulls the trigger.
And this might be his best chance, if not the last chance, to pick up that win for this season. How difficult is it to tell him, stay behind your teammate, please?
Well, it depends. Yeah, we're not racing the stat book, are we?
Worry about his teammate first before Sergio Perez, if the Red Bull can make progress.
Valtteri Bottas up there in 5th as well. Just going through that. Vettel having a strong day in 7th. Leclerc's finally made his way up into one left now, isn't there? Between it's Alex Albon is going to be released behind, past George Russell. And then we've got another lap before they get going.
Here's weekend, isn't it? So those that give up their time freely, and four-way battle potentially for the lead. Ted Kravitz, down to you.
But just remember that Lewis Hamilton radio message when he just wanted to stay out. He was wanting to give himself the best chance of winning the race, the best chance of overtaking George Russell, and that is the way.
Clear.
Right, safety cars coming in this lap. Yuki Tsunoda, I think, was he trying to unlap himself there, and that's why he had the
teammate down into turn 1. Lewis is not allowed to go up alongside him.
Not. That's all changed from last year, of course. Won the sprint yesterday, George Russell, yet to win a Grand Prix. Hamilton's won 103. Who's going to emerge on top? Lando Norris made contact with him at the last safety car restart. George Russell survived the safety car restart very well indeed, and he's already nearly a second clear of his teammate. Now they're almost making contact through the curve of the Sol. Perez ahead, and in 3rd place, Sainz coming at him, and there's Charles Leclerc waiting in the background, and we can see Fernando Alonso trying to make a move on Valtteri Bottas, and it didn't cost on his front left tyre. That won't be helping him. Medium tyres not helping at the moment. Sergio Perez and Sebastian Vettel, who slipped down into 10th place.
Leave me space. Copy.
Oh, it was tight, wasn't it?
You've got to leave a car's width, and that looked like a car's width and nothing more, didn't it?
If it was a car's width, it was judged to perfection. To Esteban Ocon, drops down to 9th.
And Verstappen has passed the pair of them up into 7th.
And we can see what happened here with Max Verstappen and how he managed it. As DRS really helping here. There's Oasis behind Charles Leclerc, who's his rival.
And Alonso looks like he's all over him.
Said watch out for Alonso, and we're watching out for Alonso. Might need to watch out for the man behind.
And that's all it needs to be.
All Perez now trying to fend off Fernando Alonso. Dive down to the left-hand side. Alonso saw him coming, wanted to go around the outside. Knows he's going to get decent traction out of the curve of the Sol.
I'm making my way through the pack. We'll see. I think he'll have so much speed. It's a non-issue anyway, frankly, because of the tyres he's got on it. But so Russell doing it's in the middle sector of the lap where Russell's just
gets Leclerc, and I know there's a big assumption. If Verstappen passes Perez for 6th, Perez and Leclerc will be tied on 290 points in the championship, going to Abu Dhabi in the battle for the runners-up spot.
Okay, Max.
2 seconds ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton. What was it, 9th?
Think about the championship in case positions are like this.
Understood.
Yeah. That's for a podium, though. You can't take a podium off Carlos for the sake of 2nd in the World Championship. I don't think that one should work. But
this is strategic high-speed chess, and at the moment he's got Lewis Hamilton in check, if not checkmates. What has Hamilton, who of course has been successful here 3 times in the past, has 103 wins to his name, got up his sleeve 2016, but it doesn't look like he's got anything in terms of that middle sector to get within DRS range to try and pull off a move here.
That Mercedes just looks so good, hasn't it? As soon as
he decided to have this one off. Whether he's got his feet up and he's chilled out.
Max, if we don't pass Fernando on the exit of 12, can we let Checo through, please? Let Checo back through.
And an and his first season for Mercedes. George Russell, after winning the sprint yesterday, wins the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. A second and a half from his teammate. Take a bow, George Russell. Finally, a Grand Prix winner and the 113th driver to do so.
Yeah,